Hello, guys. Today I want to introduce you to a fairly interesting and deeply unsettling story from Reddit. Get comfortable and enjoy. Happy listening. Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. I didn't know Will could draw. At least, that's what I remember thinking as I watched my friend's hand glide quickly across the page. Then I took a closer look at Will's improvised sketch, and instantly regretted it. I tried to unsee it. I forced my attention onto anything else around me, anything at all, to avoid what had been scratched onto the paper, the blurred motion of Will's hand, the beads of sweat forming at his temples, the soft autumn breeze slipping through the crack of the half-open window. Don't look at the page. Just don't look at it. But I knew I had to. So I looked. And it was worse than I expected. Much worse. Will had drawn an almost perfect replica of those old military recruitment posters with Uncle Sam, but not quite. The suit was there. The bow tie was there. But Uncle Sam's head was missing. Instead, the body bore the head of a goat. The animal flashed a wide, friendly, toothy grin. A hoof pointed straight at me, nearly jutting out of the page, but it wasn't telling me to join the U.S. Army. No. This goat-headed thing had something else in mind. I want your children. Beneath that proclamation, in slightly smaller letters, were the words. Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. Opening soon. I had never heard of Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone until the day before. As I quickly learned, the place had played a significant role in Will's childhood. And despite the fact that we'd been friends for 15 years, he had never told me this story. Until today. I hadn't been trying to reopen old wounds. I just wanted him to tell me a story, any story. Lately, I'd been listening to a lot of NPR, National Public Radio, and inspired by their narrative segments and snapshots of American life, I bought professional audio recording equipment and set up an improvised studio in my home. My goal was to record and archive stories from my friends, relatives, anyone who had something to say. Call it boredom. I was a widower with a 7-year-old son. Between caring for my child, I needed to fill my time with something productive. My recording space was cozy. Just a couple of microphones, a small table, a few chairs. I sat only a few feet away from my subjects. That kind of closeness was supposed to invite honesty. Real emotion. That was the plan. And it worked far too well. I never imagined my little storytelling experiment would unravel so quickly, or so horribly. And it wasn't just Will's story. Or his disturbing sketch of a goat-headed Uncle Sam. Before interviewing Will, I'd already heard a different version of events at the Fun Zone, from another person involved. Will's wife. And my close friend. Caroline. Caroline and I dated briefly in college, a period of time we now joke about as having occurred in a parallel universe. We both agree it should never have happened. Some kind of cosmic glitch, two universes brushing against each other for the briefest moment. Our relationship ended almost before it began. Not long after, Caroline started dating Will. They lived happily ever after, and the three of us remained very close. Caroline and Will's story began long before I ever met them in college. They went to the same high school. I never knew what they went through together back then, what they experienced as classmates and friends, until I built my little recording studio. I interviewed Caroline first. Will's interview took place the following day. Both of them asked me not to tell the other what was said during their sessions. Of course, I agreed. Both interviews were long and free-flowing. What follows is a transcription of only the relevant parts, the sections that deal with their relationship and Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. These stories need to be told. One way or another. Excerpt from Caroline's interview. So, how did you and Will meet? We went to the same schools growing up, but we weren't friends or anything like that. You know how it is. You kind of know everyone you go to school with, but most people just exist on the periphery. That was Will. Always around, but not really there. We ran in different circles. You don't remember the exact moment you first met him? No. But I do remember the first meaningful interaction we had. I wrote for the school newspaper. And God, I can't believe I ever did that. I was awful. Just a terrible writer. Anyway, I was researching a story. It was a local legend. Something all the kids talked about, but no one could ever prove. You had those, right? Yeah, I'm sure we did. Right. So you know what I mean. One of those, my friend's brother's mechanic said, kind of stories. Where I grew up, it was pretty well known, a kind of cautionary tale meant to scare kids out of staying out too late or doing stupid things. It was about a place called Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. God, wow. I haven't thought about that place in forever. Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. Even saying it out loud sounds strange, doesn't it? Completely made up. And when we got older, most of us assumed it was made up. Just a dumb legend. So of course it had a ridiculous name. What was the legend? It was so long ago, but as I remember it, it was supposed to be some kind of children's play area that existed in the late 70s or early 80s. No one could ever say for sure. The story was that this guy, Jerry, or Uncle Jerry, as everyone called him, inherited a piece of land from his grandfather somewhere deep in the woods. He poured all his money into it and turned it into a fun zone. You know, slides, games, trampolines. Like an indoor play center. But with a rural theme. So the place looked like a big red and white barn with a silo, and inside was all this kid-friendly junk. He built it out in the woods. That's what everyone said. But the creepy part was what supposedly happened there. About 30 years ago, a kid went down one of the slides. And just vanished into the ball pit. Like, there wasn't even a trace left of him. I think he was only 4, maybe 5. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, they drained the ball pit and all that. The only thing they found at the bottom was a hatch and a crawlspace that led nowhere. It just ended in a dead end. No one knew why it was there. But yeah, the kid vanished. The whole town lost its mind. Jerry skipped town, and the place shut down. And it really happened. Every kid in town believed it. The story was that it was some kind of hellmouth that swallowed small children. That it had to be fed. That it took that kid, and if you ever went near the place, it would take you too. Don't wander too far from home, or you'll run into Uncle Jerry. But by middle school, you realize it's all bullshit. It was bullshit. You said you were writing an article about it for the school paper, and that's how you met Will? Yeah. So I decided to write about Uncle Jerry. And Will heard about it. He joined the newspaper club because he wanted to help. I think he really just wanted to spend time with me, but he did help with the research. We talked to people. Looked through old newspapers. Spent hours in those creepy library archives. That's where Will held my hand for the first time. God, we were so young. Did you find anything? Nothing. No records of the place at all. We even talked to the police department. They had nothing. Did they at least know what you were talking about? Oh yeah. Everyone had heard of Uncle Jerry, and everyone was really nice about helping us. But there were no facts. None. My article was falling apart. Dead end after dead end. Was that what you expected? I don't know what I expected. I just thought it would be a cool story. I had all these interviews with people retelling the legend, and I was planning to write it like an oral history. But then, God, I haven't thought about this in so many years, Will came to me. He said he knew where the fun zone was. He said he had directions. Directions to a place that didn't exist. Will said it did exist. That it was out in the woods, down roads that weren't on any maps. How did he get those directions? It was so long ago, I honestly can't remember. Maybe they fell out of some ancient book in the library. I think that's what it was. But he had them. Did you go there? I've never told anyone this. Anyone. I can't believe I'm telling you now. Will and I have never talked about it since it happened. Wow. Seriously? Are you okay? We don't have to keep going. No, it's okay. Just, seriously, Caroline, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you or ruin your marriage by digging up some horrible memory. That's not what I'm doing. It's okay. I want you to know. I want you to know. He wasn't supposed to be there. He just wasn't. The plan was that Will would go first, just to make sure it was safe, and then I'd meet him there later. And that's what I did. I followed the directions exactly, down all these forgotten dirt roads that had once been real. Turn right at the rock the size of a Volkswagen. Go 3/4 of a mile and turn left at the pine tree with the broken branch. That kind of thing. All landmarks, but the directions were perfect. I drove for what felt like forever down that bumpy road, and then it just ended. There was nowhere else to go. And Will was there, standing on the side of the road next to his car, his hands shoved into his pockets. And he had this look. He just looked different. Like there were two Wills after that night. The first Will, the one who helped me research the article, who held my hand in the library, he was sweet. Shy. Gentle. Innocent. But after that night, he was changed forever. He never looked at me the same way again. And now we've been married for 9 years. Together since junior year of college, 13 years total. And he has never looked at me the way he did that night in the high school library basement. That night at the fun zone changed him. I know it did. That night. Caroline, have you ever thought about us? Like, what if our parallel universe had crossed into the real one for good, and we ended up together? No. Look, I think I should stop the recording. Please don't. It's just, Will and I have been together 9 years. No children. Not one. And he doesn't look at me the way he should. He should give me a child. We should be living this love story. But something went wrong. And it all started that night. What happened that night? I mean, I pulled over on the side of that dirt road, one no one had driven on in decades. And like I said, Will seemed different. I asked him if he'd found it, and he said it was there. Uncle Jerry's family fun zone was there. Will grabbed 2 flashlights from his car, and we followed a narrow path through thick brush. And then it was just there, rising up in front of us, half hidden among the trees. A barn. A silo tower. Everything. It was so strange, like it had materialized out of nowhere, if you know what I mean. It was dark, so yeah, I get what you're saying. There was a wooden fence surrounding the place. A picket fence. And every single board was painted either yellow, green, or pale purple. And it was in way better condition than it should have been. The paint should have been completely peeled away. Or the whole thing should have collapsed by then. But the fence was intact. Well maintained. Did you go inside? Well, we'd come all that way, right? The main entrance was this massive wooden double door, probably 15 feet tall. And above it was a sign that read Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone, with a picture of a cartoon farmer with a piece of straw sticking out of his mouth. The sign had been vandalized. Someone had painted X's over the farmer's eyes, and almost every letter had been scratched out, except for the word fun. But the F had been turned into an R, and an exclamation point had been added. So it just read, "Run." Which meant we weren't the first ones to find the place. And I remember thinking, I don't even know whether that made me feel better or worse. Who went in first? Will. He pushed the door open, and it creaked the entire time. I was nervous someone might hear us, but we were in the middle of nowhere, you know? So that was stupid. Will raised his flashlight, and then jumped back into me. We were staring at a massive fiberglass goat statue. It had to be at least 7 feet tall. It was standing on its hind legs, its front legs stretched out, like it was hugging something invisible. It was probably meant to be a photo spot. You know, stand inside, take a picture. And they were everywhere. Fiberglass farm animals. Goats, sheep, cows, pigs. All standing upright. All with their front legs extended. They were scattered throughout the building, almost like soldiers standing guard. Most of them were covered in this black soot. I ran my hand along one of the sheep. The layer of soot was at least half an inch thick. I still remember it slipping through my fingers. It was damp. Almost sticky. Honestly, I don't know what it was. What else was inside? Slides. They were everywhere. Slides, play structures, hanging bridges, a basketball court. We crept around for who knows how long, just unable to believe it was real. And it was so dark. Completely silent. We kept getting lost, over and over, like we were going deeper and deeper inside. And I know this sounds crazy, but it felt like we'd been walking longer than we should have. Like the place was bigger on the inside than it looked from the outside. At one point, I remember turning to Will and saying, "This place feels like a maze." And right then, right at that exact moment, we almost walked straight into a sign. It read, "Uncle Jerry's Amazing Corn Maze." We were standing right at the entrance to the maze. But it wasn't made of corn. The walls were wooden, with corn stalks painted on them. And we were not going in there. Absolutely not. Did you find the ball pit? We did. It was at the base of the tallest, widest slide in the entire place, right in the center of the barn. And the pit was enormous. At least 40 feet wide. Maybe 6 feet deep. But it was empty. No plastic balls. Just a massive, bare pit. And there was a ladder leading down into it. From where we were standing, we could see the hatch. Will looked at me, kind of shrugged, and said, "This is what we came here for, right?" We climbed down. And as we walked toward the hatch, our footsteps echoed, but it was a strange echo. It faded too quickly. Way too quickly. Like something was swallowing the sound. I still can't believe you guys actually did that. I guess it was adrenaline. Our flashlights were pointed straight at the hatch. It had one of those circular steel rings, no lock, no latch. We just stood there, staring at it, like we were waiting for it to start pulsing, or open on its own. But we wanted to know what was inside. We had to know. So we decided to do it together. We both grabbed the steel ring with both hands and pulled it up. I expected to be greeted by the bones of that dead child, but instead, there was only a smell that hit us immediately. It was extremely cold and sharp, with a faint hint of sulfur. Will jumped in right away. I followed, reluctantly. The stories were true. It was a tunnel to nowhere. We crouched and crawled for about 20 feet, and then the tunnel just ended. Nothing but a smooth steel wall. We ran our hands along it, searching for a hidden handle, a button, anything. There was nothing. And then we heard a sound above us. God! Someone had jumped into the pit, because the first thing we heard was that single, hollow boom. There was no mistaking it. Then footsteps, right above us, moving toward the hatch. We turned off our flashlights and pressed our backs against the steel. Will wrapped an arm around me and covered my mouth, and I did the same to him. My legs started shaking, tapping against the floor, and Will grabbed it to stop it. We heard the footsteps reach the hatch, and then they just stopped. I wanted to look down the tunnel. I really did. But I didn't want whatever was there to see the whites of my eyes. I was afraid that would give us away. But I could feel its presence at the far end of the tunnel. I knew it was there. I felt it leaning down, looking at us. I'm sure of it. I even heard it breathing, softly. Did it say anything? No. It just watched us for a while. I never opened my eyes. The next thing I remember is the hatch slamming shut, and Will and I both jumped, smashing our heads against the ceiling of the tunnel. We stayed there. In silence. For what must have been an hour. Eventually, we worked up the courage to crawl back out in complete darkness. I prayed, actually prayed, that whatever that thing was, or person, or whatever, wasn't in the tunnel with us. We were too afraid to even turn our flashlights back on. Every inch we crawled, I thought, this is it. I'm about to reach out and touch something warm and growling. But we made it. We slowly lifted the hatch. Thank God it hadn't locked us inside. We climbed out and ran. Just ran. I don't even remember how my legs moved. I only remember being in the tunnel. Then being outside. Then being at the car. Just like that. We were safe. Did you tell anyone? Did you write the article? Will walked me home. We promised each other we would never talk about it again. Ever. No article. Nothing. Why not? Because I think we stumbled onto something we were never supposed to see. And something knew we were there. And I think it let us go, with a warning. We didn't want to anger it. We were given a second chance. You keep calling it. Is there a reason? Just a feeling. The sounds it made when it moved. The atmosphere around it. It didn't feel human. Honestly, I still can't believe neither you nor Will have talked about this since high school. Will. I love Will. But it changed him. It changed me. How long has it been since Grace died? 15 months. And you two didn't have secrets? Things you never talked about? We talked about everything. At least from my side. And I'm sure she didn't hide anything from me. What's it like, having a child you love that much? I think what we had was rare. And Tyler. Tyler is my world. He's everything to me. Do you ever think? I stopped the recording. Caroline was heading down a road I had absolutely no desire to follow. She left shortly after, making me promise not to tell Will anything. I gave her my word. At one point, I dragged the digital file of her interview to the trash icon and hovered over the delete button for several seconds. But I couldn't do it. I dragged it back into a folder on my desktop. Will came the next day for his interview. It started out normal enough. The first 20 minutes were about high school, his college baseball career, his love of 1980s action movies. Nothing personal. Nothing deep. But that changed quickly. The interview drifted toward love and marriage. I tried to steer away from it, but the topic surfaced on its own. Will hesitated, thinking. I hoped we'd move past it. Instead, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Have you ever heard of Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone?" I lied and said no. He grabbed a sheet of paper from my desk and sketched that same Uncle Sam-style poster for the Cursed Kids attraction. This is where his part of the interview begins. I was sitting in class, I think it was Spanish. I glanced over, and this beautiful girl in the row next to me was furiously scribbling in her notebook. She was drawing that. Will holds up the page. I can't explain it, but I was drawn to it. There was something about it. So after class, I stopped her and asked what Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone was, because I'd never heard of that damn place. Apparently, it was some kind of kids' play area back in the 1970s, and some little kid drowned in a ball pit, if that's even possible. Caroline told me the whole story, said it was the most famous legend in our town, and that she was writing an article about it for the school paper. But I'd never heard of it. I asked all my friends, my parents, my teachers, and I always got the same answer. What are you talking about? That only made me more curious. Was this beautiful girl messing with me? Or did she just have an incredible imagination? Because according to Caroline, this legend was as well known as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. Are you sure you asked those people? Google it. You won't find anything about Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. Nothing. Zero results. And if a legend is that well known, shouldn't there be something about it online? Anything at all? Nothing. That's what made it unbelievable. And it wasn't just people I knew. I joined the school newspaper mainly because of this overwhelming need to learn more about her, and about why she was obsessed with a legend that didn't exist. We interviewed dozens of people. Historians. Cops. Librarians. They all looked at us like we were crazy. No one had ever heard of Uncle Jerry. Which only fueled my curiosity. You guys started dating later, right? In college? I didn't know you had a history. Not exactly. I mean, sort of. Caroline had this inexplicable pull on me. We spent a lot of time together. She was beautiful, funny, driven, obsessed with uncovering the truth about Uncle Jerry's place. And I liked that. Even when I thought she might be a little crazy. I liked it. But she wasn't crazy. So was it real? That's the thing. We had no leads, no evidence, and I was just hoping she'd give up. You know, drop the whole thing so we could start dating and do normal teenage stuff or whatever. But one night, and man, I hadn't thought about this in forever, I was up late cramming for a test when I saw this old man walking down my street. He was all wrapped up, shuffling along, looked like he was about 200 years old. He stopped at the end of my driveway, reached into his coat, pulled something out, and put it in my mailbox. And I was like, what the hell? I stood up, and he suddenly snapped his head around and looked straight at me. It was creepy. Just absolutely creepy. I dropped to the floor and didn't have the courage to look outside again for at least 10 minutes. By then, he was gone. What did he put in your mailbox? I found out in the morning. It was a route, scratched onto a napkin. Weird, right? Not a map, just directions. Like, drive down this dirt road until you see the tallest tree, then turn right. Stuff like that. I immediately knew it had something to do with Uncle Jerry. I just knew. You told Caroline? Here's the thing. And this is going to sound awful, and I can't believe I'm telling this to anyone, but this is what happened. The whole Uncle Jerry thing had been going on for weeks. And I know I said I liked Caroline's obsession at first, but it got weird fast. She kept coming over to my house to hang out, but it didn't really feel like she was interested in me anymore. She was more interested in my little brother. He was 2 years old at the time. And God, this is hard to explain. It wasn't like a normal I like playing with your little brother kind of thing. It was creepy. The way she looked at him, it was almost like she needed him for something. Like she was planning to take him. Like one day we'd come home and David would be gone. And it would be because Caroline took him. I know, I don't expect you to understand. It doesn't make sense. But I felt it. I'm telling you, it felt real. Deep down, I had this awful feeling that it was all connected to her obsession with Uncle Jerry's Family Fun Zone. I thought Caroline was looking for that place so she could sacrifice my brother. Just saying that out loud, I know how insane it sounds. You probably think I'm messing with you. I mean, we're talking about my wife. Caroline. It's okay. It doesn't sound like you're lying. I wouldn't lie about this. Not about this. Did you tell anyone? No. They would have thought I was crazy. It was unbelievable nonsense. But I had to know what she was planning. So here's what I did. I told Caroline that I'd found the route to Uncle Jerry's. I said it fell out of some old local history book in the library or something like that. I gave her directions and told her I'd go check it out first. But here's the thing. I gave her the wrong route. What do you mean? I made it up. Total garbage. Led miles away from town in the opposite direction. Then I followed my route. The one the old man gave me. And it led me straight there. It was real. Uncle Jerry's place was real, man. None of it made sense. And then Caroline showed up. With the wrong directions. I will never forget seeing her car pull up. She should have been 40 miles away, but there she was. That's when I knew something was wrong with her. Something was wrong with that old man. Something was wrong with that place. It was like Caroline was magnetically drawn to it. To Uncle Jerry's family fun zone. Like it existed because she believed it existed. That's when I decided there were evil forces in the world I would never understand. Never. And Caroline was tangled up in them. How could that place be real? Like I said, it made no sense. Nothing did. We wandered around the place for a bit, and honestly, it feels like I'm back there right now just talking about it. And I never wanted to go back. Never. That stale smell. Those animals towering over us like monsters. It was just. Will, maybe we should stop. No. No, just a little more. There's something you need to know. I've never seen Caroline that excited. Ever. I swear, she was floating through that place, wanted to explore every inch of it. She even dragged me into this creepy corn maze that I thought we'd never get out of. And then we found it. We found the spot where the child disappeared. Caroline opened the hatch in the massive empty ball pit. And we squeezed into the tunnel that ended in a dead end. And then we heard something. Someone else was in the barn. We heard footsteps above us. Heavy footsteps. I thought maybe it was the old man, because who else could have known we were there? Was it the old man? No. Not a chance. We huddled at the end of the tunnel, and my legs were shaking so badly I thought they'd just give out. Caroline held them. She was calm. Just unbelievably calm. The hatch opened. And in the darkness, I saw the figure lean down. It was definitely not the old man. It was too thin. It couldn't have been human. It just couldn't. So we stared at it from opposite ends of that tunnel. And at some point, I turned to look at Caroline. She was watching the thing with a faint smile on her face. And it just kept watching us. Breathing. Then suddenly it sniffed the air, like it was smelling us. And then it spoke. God. I will never forget that voice. It was deep, raspy, and horrifying all at once. It said, "Not young enough." Then it slammed the hatch shut and walked away. We waited. And when we thought it was safe, we ran back to our cars. Will, if I had known we'd ever talk about this, I would never have asked you to do this interview. I'm serious. I never wanted any of this. It's okay. Someone needed to know. I'm just glad it was you. If it's okay, I want to ask. And if you don't want to answer, that's completely fine. Why are you with her? Why are you married to Caroline? Because someone had to marry her. And it had to be me. I know what happened in that place. I know there is evil in this world that latched onto her. But she's better now. She never wrote that article. She's never spoken about Uncle Jerry's family fun zone again. I'm not even sure she remembers it. Maybe the evil left. Maybe it's gone for good. But I'm always waiting for it to come back. And that's why I'll tell you this, but this goes to the grave. Yes. She wants children. Caroline wants a child. Just not from me. I had a vasectomy years ago. Back in college. I will never give her a child. Not after everything I know. But now she wants one more than anything in the world. She'll find out. If you two ever get fertility tests done, the doctors will know. I know. And what will you do then? I don't know. I don't know. My initial instinct about my interview experiment turned out to be right. There was something about those microphones and that tight space that pulled honesty out of people. What I experienced with Caroline and Will was a rare kind of confession, one I hope I never, ever experience again. I wanted to get rid of all of it. Even keeping the audio files felt wrong, like I was letting evil fester. But then I remembered what Will told me. Someone has to know. So I spent hours transcribing the interviews, saved the text file to a flash drive, and tossed it into a box in my closet. I deleted the audio files from my computer. Put my microphones and recorders out on the curb. It wasn't worth it. But the purge didn't cure me. I was haunted by Will's and Caroline's stories. And not just by what happened to them in high school, but by the secrets and lies they had lived with ever since. Will and Caroline came over for dinner a few weeks later, and everything felt like nothing bad had ever happened. We drank. We laughed. I saw Will rest his hand on the small of Caroline's back. I saw Caroline gently stroke Will's elbow. It all looked terrifyingly normal. But I knew what they lived with. And it terrified me. The next day, someone knocked on my door. It was Caroline. She'd left her sweater at my place and came to get it. It was the first time I was alone with her. After the interview, I was afraid she'd bring up Uncle Jerry's family fun zone. Or wanting a child. Or gently reopen the door to what might have been. I wasn't sure. I grabbed her sweater from the kitchen and walked her to the front door. I tried to read her, searched her face for a trace of the evil Will claimed had taken hold of her years ago. I didn't see it. I just saw a lonely, sad woman who wanted more from life than she'd been given. We reached the door. Caroline glanced into my living room. Tyler was curled up on the pillows, absorbed in a fantasy book. Caroline smiled wistfully at my son and said, without addressing anyone in particular, "Not young enough." Phew. That's the story, guys. So, what did you think? Let me know in the comments whether you liked it or not. Now I'll say a few words of my own, as usual. Overall, I really liked this story. Honestly, I don't understand how someone couldn't like it. It's genuinely fascinating. First of all, the narrative structure is great, two versions of events, and we're left to decide who to believe. The ending heavily implies which version is closer to the truth, but you're still constantly questioning things. At first, you think, maybe Will is hiding something. Or maybe he isn't even Will, maybe someone took his place. Then you hear Caroline's side and think, wait, maybe she is the one hiding something. Halfway through, I genuinely thought Will had been replaced by someone else entirely. Caroline even complained that he'd become unnaturally calm, cold, distant, not the gentle guy she remembered. Even in the tunnel, he covered her mouth, grabbed her leg so she wouldn't move or make a sound. She refused to look at the creature, she stared downward, terrified. She knew it was watching them. But then we hear Will's version. He gave Caroline the wrong directions, yet she still arrived. That old man suddenly makes sense. Maybe the old man was that creature. At first, he appeared wrapped in a cloak, hiding his body. Later, in the darkness, Will saw something thin, inhuman. Something that feeds on children, on their energy, to extend its life. Maybe that's the idea. The ending is open enough to let us connect the dots. And when we hear Will's version, Caroline's behavior is completely different. She wasn't afraid, she was fascinated. Smiling. Studying the creature directly. Even before the trip, she was watching Will's baby brother. Wanting him. That implies she already intended to bring a child there. Maybe her family has always done this. Maybe it's a ritual. Maybe they offer children to this ancient being. That boy who vanished in the ball pit? He may have been a sacrifice. Maybe Caroline inherited this duty. Maybe the old man isn't 200 years old, but thousands. And she's been feeding him. I hope you get what I'm saying. I loved the story. I also really like the interview style structure. It feels real. Intimate. Unsettling. When I read Will's version, I genuinely got chills more than once. What do you think? Write it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. See you in the next video. Bye, everyone.